Okay. Best of worst of versus battle.
All right, all right. So my favorite one was Redman and Method Man, probably because they actually were the first, if not the only, versus to actually put on an actual show.
Show.
They're all shows, they're all performances, but there really wasn't the versus type tension, even though
Mhm.
everybody is just nobody's really keeping score, but you can tell people
People
are
are
in their
keeping
own
score.
camps.
Yeah.
And this just didn't feel like that. They had a good time. They've been partners on a lot of their career. Their most successful songs and albums have been together. So the fact that they were able, and they both still look good,
Yes.
being 50 plus, so for them
No
to get
out of
back
breath.
together,
Some of these young kids, they have to breathe
yeah,
in extra hard, and they gave you a full show. Yep.
yeah, they gave you a full show. So, that'd be uh, what you would look forward to if they were to go on tour versus some of these other ones. They just kind of throw them together. My worst was the Brandy versus Monica, simply because it was just kind of like,
Mhm.
it didn't seem like they were into it. It was just like a lot of them, for the longest, their careers have
Beef.
been pitted against each other.
Hmm.
So, this was, I guess, their way, not necessarily squash it, but to capitalize off of that. And they really didn't. It was just kind of like, we're sisters, we're homegirls. But you would think that the same attitude for like Redman and Method Man, even though Brandon and Monica didn't team up outside of just like one song or something like
Hmm.
that. You would think they themselves, if they decided to combine their powers,
Hmm.
and this would be a good opportunity for them to launch or relaunch their careers, maybe even together as a group. They kind of just like, whatever, this is an obligation, I'm here to get the check. Once I get
Get
the
the
check, I'm
check.
out.
Yeah. And I have to say, for me, it was more of nostalgia because I definitely, we're all in the same age range. So definitely the music of that time, it was very nostalgic of, the way what you were doing at that age growing up, that type of thing. But it definitely was an awkward vibe that was definitely off. Okay, my best was Erica Badu and Jill Scott. Similar to the Redman Method Man, it was very like I love you sister, I love you sister. It was very complimentary. Plus, I mean, these two are, legends in the R&B game. So the music was definitely on point. And again, it was one of those things where it had a vibe going, and it
Mhm.
was again very nostalgic and reminiscent, and both of those ladies really did um, they did their thing.
And they work together a lot, considerably. One of my
Mm.
favorite movie soundtracks is Dave Chappelle's Block Party, and
Mm.
both of them are on it. And you can tell there's, they homegirls for
Yeah,
real, for real.
yeah, unlike the Brandy Monica thing.
Right, which are they're not.
And my worst of was Bow Wow and Soldier Boy. I think I just age out of that. It wasn't yeah, and they were really kind of taking it serious, and I was like, this is not that. You've both had your moments, but you're trying to make this a real
Battle.
like battle, and neither one of
That's
y'all that yeah. Mm-mm.
right. Which I wish, I wish the creators, Timberland and Swiss
Was
Beats, I think they should have done and maybe they did, and the people who were participating just didn't listen to them. I wish they would have like really said, "Look, this is a celebration. This is
mhm.
nostalgia for a lot of people. Even though it says verses, you're really not competing. We just want y'all to sing the songs that people want to hear. They want to maybe, like how it first kind of started, tell a story, how the
Mhm.
song came about." And that sort of, so people can reminisce, and then I don't know if it got lost in translation. I don't know if they were seeing a lot of money from the real people really trying to, go at it. But I think
Mhm.
that kind of got lost in translation, specifically like with the Bow Wow and Soldier Boy, Brandy and Monica, the um, the Locks and Dipset,
Dipset.
and then Triple Six Mafia and
Mm.
Bone Thugs and
Bone
Harmony.
Thugs, yeah.
You know, again, that goes back to our drama thing. But this is, to me, this is kind of different. I think the most popular ones were the one where it was all love and
Mhm.
celebrations. You know,
Like
even
the
though
Isley Brothers and Earth, Wind& and Fire, that was like I was kinda going back and forth between those 2 because that one was really good as well.
mhm, right. You know, I think the more popular ones where it was nostalgic and we got to reminisce and it was kumbaya, you know,
Mhm.
even though the Stephanie Mills and
Shaka
was a
Khan,
train wreck, you know,
very much so.
right,
That was almost my worst, so I was like, "I'm not doing the icons like that. I'm not
right,
gonna do it
even
to."
though like the Babyface and
Oh, Teddy
yeah,
Riley,
Taylor,
hot
but
mess.
even though those are train wrecks,
Yeah.
the atmosphere for them to actually perform, I think people, if it would have went off better, those would
Mhm.
probably would have been the best ones. You know,
Yeah,
no, well, fault to their own, but
yeah.
you know,
Fault of Teddy Riley.
right. But again, all that to say, the ones that were to where they're really trying to put on a show, probably the most memorable versus the ones so they were truly battles, you know,
Mhm.
maybe with the exception of the Locks and the Dipset because a bunch of memes came out of that. You know, I think that's where the Yesterday's Price, Fat Joe doing
Fat
the
Joe.
yeah, he was doing
Yesterday
the
Price,
commentary
not
after that.
yesterday's Price. Yeah.
Right, right. You know, it was kind of like, yeah, y'all doing, we ain't here for that. You know, just sing the songs, let us love them, and
We
then
know
keep it
you New
moving.
Yorkers, we know y'all go
Right,
hard like that, but can we
right.
not for one time? But I guess I couldn't. So next up is best of worst of album.
All right. So this was a surprise by me. I'm not a Tyler the Creator fan, but his newest album, "Call Me If You Get Lost," was probably, as far as hip hop goes, probably the most complete album to where I would listen to it straight, no skips. You know,
Mm,
there were a bunch of hip hop albums that came out this year. Nas came with one, of course. Kanye West and Drake both came out with smash albums. You know, Tyler Creator. You know, I'm a new fan because of this album. Got me listening to some of these older albums. Got me actually listening to some of his performances, and he's a character. And
mhm.
I kind of like the fact, I kind of like artists who don't take themselves so
That's too
seriously.
seriously,
Yeah, and
like
Tyler's
a Kanye
definitely one
West.
of those characters, you know, and that, you know, just listen to his album again. Some of the all out of all the other albums I've listened to that came out this year, I can listen to that one straight through, no skips. You
Oh,
know, so
check
that's
it out.
why I
I know
got.
I've seen people talk about it on Twitter, but I never
Mhm.
just gotten to it. But I may check it out.
Yeah. And then my worst was Donda by Kanye. Because it just, all the songs, it was it was a lot of songs, and they all kind of bled together. They really didn't, it really wasn't a story. Also, I like albums to where artists can tell a story. It don't necessarily have to be a concept album,
Mhm.
but if, you know, I can get a timeline of kind of like a arc, a beginning, arc, and an end into an album, you'll get kudos with me. This was just, he would just put songs together and they kind of all sounded the same. So that's why I got my worst. I mean, there was a lot of hits from it, you know, a lot of songs that people, you know, play on repeat, but straight through, no skips. It was hard. It took me a couple of listens to get through this whole album before, you know, saying, okay, well, this is the impression I got from it. So if it takes that long, I'm out.
Yeah, didn't even attempt to it. Kanye is on my forever
Forget about it list.
ish list. Yeah. So yeah, not even. Yeah. So yeah, no, not my jam. Nowhere.
I play
I
it in the background while I'm doing something else, but not something I'm intently in the car, you know, listening
mm,
to, trying to reflect on.
yep. So my best of was Hotels from Jasmine Sullivan. It was great to have music from her. Her She told a story with
Hmm.
her album. And of course, her talent is just boundless. She's so talented. It was just a really great album, and it definitely resonated with the girls. So that was definitely my best of. Worst of, Certified Lover Boy by Drake. I've tried on several occasions to get through it, and I have yet to get through it. I've gotten through maybe the front half, and then I was like, why am I even listening to this? I'm not even gonna put my. And there was like, well, you need to listen to. Now I was like, no, no, I think I'm good. And I kind of like go and listen to a little at the beginning. I was like, no, that's not it, and keep going. The only one that I kind of liked was the Way Too Sexy one, because one, it was super popular, and I liked the video with it. It was very tongue in cheek, very funny. So the video did a lot of the heavy lifting for me for that song.
Yeah, there was a couple tracks on Drake's album. The first one, Champagne Poetry, I think is the one I like the most,
Hmm.
and then the one with the track with Jay Z. Outside of
Hmm.
that, I couldn't name. You
Yeah,
could forget. I couldn't name
yeah,
another track on there if I tried.
yeah, no, yeah. So the last thing we have in our best of worst of topic for this year is biggest surprise.
All right. So my biggest surprise was the Braves winning the World Series. Came out of nowhere. I really don't follow baseball like that,
Hmm.
but there are some mainstays when it comes to baseball that kind of like college football.
Hmm.
Once these teams get up at the top, it's hard to dethrone them. So you think of the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox. Some of these
Traditional
Ash
powerhouses.
yeah, the Astros, some of these powerhouses that kind of been up there for a while. So, surprised that the Braves actually made it that far and then actually won the World Series was a surprise. I actually watched, which is a big surprise,
Hmm.
watched like the last two or three games of the World Series, something I hardly ever do.
Hmm.
So I was actually surprised that they actually were able to pull it out. My not necessarily worst surprise, but not surprised at all. It was a tie between COVID numbers going back up because people. We knew that was coming. As soon as the numbers started going down, people felt more comfortable. The numbers went back up. So that was predictable. And then it was a tie between that and Facebook, either self acknowledging or that bombshell whistleblower that actually came through and said Facebook knows that it's being harmful to its platform being harmful to either certain aspects, whether it be women, whether it be different political parties. All that stuff had dropped about them being harmful, and they know it. The research is out there. They ones that actually commissioned the research, and then once the research found out it was terrible, they were like, "Ah, yeah, thanks, bye bye." So the fact that Facebook knows as a social media platform is being harmful in many different ways, that's not a surprise at all.
Yeah. So my best of biggest surprise is I don't really have one. I thought about this and I was like, what was a big surprise that was great? I was like, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head because this year has literally been a year. So I will piggyback on Brother Tech with the Braves winning the World Series because that literally did come out of left field because I didn't even know they were even in the hunt.
Right.
It was one of those things where, wait, what? How did they make it this far? And it was definitely, it was great for the city ish. They tried to force the whole Cobb County thing down, people's throats. That was definitely a surprise. And the way they did the parade, they were going at regular speed. They didn't slow down and let people wave or do anything. But it definitely was a surprise. And the sports teams here, surprisingly, Georgia sports overall is like, wow, like, is this the right state? Did the curse lift?
With the exception of the
With the
Falcons.
exception of the Falcons, but they tore down black churches to build their stadium. So I mean, I
Karma
can't
is
be too
going to be
surprised,
on sit
right?
on them for a while.
Yep, we had Georgia football team that was number one for the longest time. They're in the playoff, the college football playoffs. We had at one, I
The
think it was
Hawks
one,
last
the
season.
Hawks last season. They're doing good this season. I think we had one Saturday or Sunday or one weekend where all the Georgia teams won, like even down to I think the lacrosse or something. So like it's one of those things where Georgia sports are kind of winning, which is very much a surprise.
Yeah, right.
And my worst surprise, similar to what Terrance was mentioning about the COVID numbers, but for me, it's one of those things where it is a surprise because we got a vaccine. Even though everybody isn't vaccinated, a large portion of people have at least one dose. So you would think that that would mean something. And we're going into year 3 of this. And the fact that the numbers now are back to 2020, if not even slightly worse, because this Omicron variant is wilding out here. It it's surprising in the fact that how do we now have the things that we didn't have last year and we're still in the same position? It seems as if it didn't really it helped,
Well,
but it
people don't like being told what to do. So telling people there's a vaccine mandate maybe force people not to get it. People don't like being told where they can and can't go. So vaccine or not, whether you didn't have the vaccine or actually did have the vaccine. And for example, if you took the vaccine, I think that gave a lot of people the go ahead to do everything.
Mhm.
So, well, as long as I got my mask on, I can go everywhere. And then, which is not a surprise to anybody, that was never promised that if you got the COVID vaccination, you wouldn't get COVID anymore. But people didn't hear that. They heard, I got a vaccine, so now I can go all the places, do all the things, and surprise, you got COVID. Now your effects are going to be less, and there's a greater chance you won't die, but you still get COVID. And that still
Mhm.
runs the numbers up. A lot of us think that, okay, well, the unvaccinated are the ones that's the reason why all this is happening. No, not really. People who are getting vaccinated are contributing. If you're not getting affected directly, you're passing it on to other people because, again, like I mentioned before, nobody likes being told what to do. And when you tell somebody they can't go somewhere, they're going to want to go that much more. So I think, in my opinion, those couple of reasons why the numbers are even higher. Because, and then, like you mentioned, now we can do everything. Now we can go to sporting events. Now we can travel more places. Now we can eat at more places. And we're not going back. We're not going back on lockdown. So I think
Mhm.
people are like, well,
No matter how
it is
bad
what
it
it,
gets,
yeah,
not
it
going
is what
back.
it is. I'm just going
Yeah.
to go live my life. And that's why the numbers are going back up.